Hello, welcome to That's English.
Hello. Oh, actually, I wouldn't drink that if I were you.
I'm only having one can.
But you know, if you leave a tooth in a glass of cola, the chemicals destroy it.
That's not true, Annabelle. That's an urban myth, una leyenda urbana.
Today's episode is all about myths, ancient myths about druids.
And modern myths about a rock star.
People often invent myths about famous people.
Our question is, what are the first two urban myths about the rock star?
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Zach. All right.
Yeah, good, thanks. Hi, Zach. What have you got there? I went to the library this morning with my daughter, Sienna. We're studying local history.
Interesting stuff. A mint tea?
Oh, yes, please. Did you know, Bill, there was an ancient graveyard at the end of the street?
Really? No, I didn't know. I'll bring the tea over.
Apparently, an old couple were doing some gardening when they found some very old jewellery. A team of archaeologists went in, found some more jewellery, and after they dug for a few days, they discovered the skeletons of a druid priest and priestess.
I suppose that's why the pub is called the Druid's Head.
Well, the stories about druids are just myths, aren't they?
No, druids are real. They've been running the country for thousands of years.
Bill, that's rubbish.
They'd already taken over before the Romans arrived.
How do you know this, Bill?
I read it in a magazine. The royal family is actually the royal druid family. And the Prime Minister's a druid too.
It's an urban myth, Bill.
Talking of myths and legends, do you remember Guy McCall?
Yeah. He used to live a couple of streets away.
Didn't he have a hit with That's the Way She Did It?
That's right. That's the way she did it. Did it all the time. It's brilliant, isn't it? Anyway, he's doing a concert in the town hall tonight.
But he died years ago in a plane crash in the Nevada desert, didn't he?
I read he joined a religious sect.
After that, didn't he have a nervous breakdown?
That's right. And then later, a reporter found out he was living in New Mexico with lots of wives.
He used to marry a new one each year.
He'd go 5 days without any sleep.
I remember that story.
It was all just rumour. Anyway, he's playing here tonight at 8:30. I'm going to see if they've got any tickets left. Do any of you fancy coming?
Okay, why not?
Thanks, but I've got to get home.
Yeah, no, thanks. I suppose he's in his 60s now.
When I was a kid, I used to think he was the most exciting person I'd ever seen.
I always wondered what had happened to him.
Let's hope they've got some tickets left.
There were certainly a lot of myths and rumours in that episode. Did you get the answer to our question?
What are the first two urban myths about the rock star?
But he died years ago in a plane crash in the Nevada desert, didn't he?
I read he joined a religious sect.
So first, Zach says he died years ago in a plane crash in the Nevada desert.
And Chris says he joined a religious sect.
Well, they can't both be true.
In the video, we saw people narrating past events using the past simple. Watch.
I went to the library this morning with my daughter, Sienna. They discovered the skeletons of a druid priest and priestess.
And using the past continuous to describe what was happening at the time. Watch.
Apparently, an old couple were doing some gardening when they found some very old jewellery. And then later, a reporter found out he was living in New Mexico with lots of wives.
We often use the past simple and the past continuous together. For example, an old couple were doing some gardening when they found some very old jewellery.
We also heard people narrating past events using the past perfect. Watch.
And after they dug for a few days, they discovered the skeletons of a druid priest and priestess.
They'd already taken over before the Romans arrived.
I always wondered what had happened to him.
So, we use the past perfect to describe what happened before a certain time in the past.
For example, they'd built Stonehenge before the Druids came to England.
So, first they built Stonehenge, and then the Druids came. Notice that we contract had. They'd, not they had.
Let's watch the next part of the drama.
See if you can answer the question. Why does Guy still do concerts?
So how was the show last night, Bill?
Guy McCall is definitely alive.
He still looks great. He wore his pirate costume and sang his old songs.
What can I get you?
A cup of tea and some toast, please.
Take a seat, I'll bring it over. Don't I know you from somewhere?
I used to come to the cafe in the old days.
Oh my God,
What's wrong?
that's him!
Who?
Guy McCall.
No, it isn't. Is it?
There was a great show last night.
Thanks.
But you looked completely different on stage.
That's just costume and makeup.
We used to hear so many strange stories about you.
I'm pleased to say most of the stories aren't true.
You look very well for a dead man.
Thanks.
Don't you want people to recognise you?
I don't want the newspapers to find out where I am.
Do you not like being famous?
Look, when I'm 25, my father gets dementia. So I go up to Glasgow and look after him. And I stop singing and look after him. I don't want everyone to know. I need privacy.
So where do all the stories and myths about you come from?
I make them all up. I think it's fun to invent stories and keep my name in the news.
This is incredible.
When my father dies, I just want to lead an ordinary life. I go to university and study fine art. So now I'm actually working as an artist.
So you didn't join a religious sect?
No,
Did you used to marry a new wife each year?
no. My wife and I have been married for 30 years.
Why did you do the concert last night?
I have no money. So sometimes I dress up as a pirate and sing the old songs.
I'd love to hear you sing That's the Way She Did It.
Let the man eat his breakfast in peace.
We'll all do it together. 1, 2, 3.
That's the way she did it all the time. Wow. Nothing is what it seems to be. There are so many myths and legends.
Like Elvis is alive.
Elvis is dead, but he didn't die in 1977. He died in the 90s.
You're kidding.
Yeah. People like to make up stories, and people like to believe stories. That's why there's so many urban myths. They make life more interesting. Come on!
That's the way she did it all the time.
How funny. So the rumours and the urban myths about Guy were not true.
Exactly. But why does Guy still do concerts? Did you get the answer?
I have no money, so sometimes I dress up as a pirate and sing the old songs.
He does concerts because he has no money. Poor Guy.
In the video, we heard Guy narrating past events, but using present tenses. Watch.
Look, when I'm 25, my father gets dementia. So I go up to Glasgow and look after him. And I stop singing and look after him. I don't want everyone to know. When my father dies, I just want to lead an ordinary life. I go to university and study fine art.
When we tell a story, we can use present tenses to make the story sound more dramatic, more immediate.
Yes, for example, one day I come home from school to find that my mother isn't there. I look everywhere. The back door is open. There's a fire in the garden. A woman dressed in white is dancing round the fire. Suddenly I realise my mother is a druid.
Great example, Annabelle. We also heard people talking about past habits using used to. Watch.
I used to come to the cafe in the old days.
We used to hear so many strange stories about you. Did you used to marry a new wife each year?
We can also use would to talk about past habits. For example, my family would go to the beach in the summer. What about you, Anita?
My brother and I would go camping in the summer. My dad would always tell us ghost stories around the campfire.
Ah. We asked people in the street about the stories they remember from when they were children.
What tales or stories do you remember from your youth?
My favourite story would be Of Mice and Men. I think it was a John Steinbeck book.
I remember Judy Blume. As an author, she wrote a lot of children's books.
I think it's very varied, but probably it's mostly the classics.
A lot of the traditional Peter Pan, Cinderella, those type of stories, I think, are the ones that influenced me.
I remember having the Paddington collection, Paddington Bear. Very sort of more adventure type stories. I think anything with horses in I would have liked as well.
Just fairy tales when you're growing up, is to really enjoy them. I'd say fairy tales.
When I was a little kid, my favorite story was The Red Riding Hood. My mom knew it by heart and she told it pretty well. That's the one I remember, and that's the one I told my small sisters.
When I think of my childhood, I remember a lot of books by Roald Dahl. I think his stories are very imaginative, some of the characters are very expressive, and he is one of my favourite authors.
I loved reading as a child. My mum would put up a tent in the garden and I used to spend all day reading there.
Oh, that sounds perfect. You know what? I might do that this afternoon. Bye-bye, everyone. See you soon.
Goodbye.